What happens when one of Hollywood's most unpredictable icons comes face to face with daytime television's most polarizing voice? What you're about to hear isn't just an interview. It's a collision. And trust me, this is one television moment no one saw coming. Before we dive in, pause for a second because once this story starts, there's no turning back. The energy inside the View studio was already crackling long before Jack Nicholson stepped into the spotlight. The legendary actor, famous for unforgettable performances and an equally legendary reputation, had agreed to appear on the show to promote his latest film. On paper, it was just another press stop. In reality, it was the calm before a storm. And here's the question no one asked out loud. Was everyone really there to talk about the movie? Joy Behar sat at the iconic table, flipping through her notes with a familiar smirk. She'd been anticipating this moment for weeks. An interview with one of cinema's greatest figures was supposed to be a career highlight, but there was something different in her posture, something sharp in her focus, like she was gearing up for a confrontation, not a conversation. Then it happened. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incomparable Jack Nicholson. Whoopi Goldberg announced as the studio erupted in applause. Nicholson strode onto the set with his unmistakable swagger flashing that world-famous grin. Dressed in a sleek black suit, sunglasses resting casually atop his head, he looked every bit the Hollywood legend. As he took his seat, the atmosphere shifted. Excitement mixed with uncertainty. Anticipation tinged with unease. And in that moment, you could feel it. Something big was coming. "Jack, thank you so much for being here," Whoopi said warmly. "We're thrilled to have you." "The pleasure is all mine," Nicholson replied, his growly voice instantly recognizable. "Though I have to admit this is quite an intimidating panel." The audience laughed. For a brief second, everything felt normal. Sarah Haynes and Alyssa Farah Griffin smiled openly, visibly stark. But Joy Behar didn't smile back. Her eyes stayed locked on Nicholson, studying him, waiting. Then she leaned forward. "So Jack," Joy began, her tone sharp and deliberate. "We'll get to your new film in a moment. But first, I think our audience deserves to hear about some of your past comments regarding women in Hollywood." And just like that, the room changed. Nicholson's smile faded just slightly. He stayed calm, but the shift was unmistakable. "Well, Joy," he said evenly. "Context matters. What exactly are you referring to?" "Oh, I think you know," Joy shot back. "Your attitude toward female co-stars over the years has been questionable at best." A ripple of discomfort spread through the studio. Whoopi tried to step in. "Joy, maybe we should focus on Jack's current project," but Joy wasn't stopping. "No, this is important," she insisted. "This man has been in Hollywood for over 50 years, and there are plenty of stories about his behavior on set. Stories that wouldn't fly today." Nicholson's jaw tightened. "Stories," he replied calmly. "Or gossip, because there's a big difference, and a responsible journalist should know that." That's when Joy's voice rose. "Are you questioning my journalistic integrity?" "I'm questioning your motives," Nicholson answered coolly. "I was invited here to discuss my work. Instead, it feels like I'm on trial now." The tension was undeniable. Sarah glanced nervously between them. Alyssa sat frozen, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. The audience barely breathed. "My motives are clear." Joy snapped. "I'm holding you accountable for decades of problematic behavior. Someone has to." Nicholson leaned back, his legendary intensity finally breaking through. "Problematic, according to who?" he asked. "You. Since when did you become Hollywood's moral authority?" Joy didn't hesitate. "Since I stopped letting men like you coast on charm and reputation," she fired back. The studio fell completely silent. Cameras rolled. No one blinked. "Men like me." Nicholson's voice dropped low and dangerous. "You don't know me. You're making accusations based on tabloid rumors and industry whispers and calling it journalism." Joy's face flushed red. "I call it asking the hard questions." She snapped. "Unlike the sycophants in this town who bow to you because of your status." And right there in that charged moment, it became clear this was no longer an interview. It was a showdown. Hard questions. Nicholson let out a sharp laugh, but there was no humor behind it. "You haven't asked me a single thing about my craft, my process, or the work I came here to discuss. All you've done is attack my character based on hearsay." The air tightened instantly. You could almost hear the tension breathing. Whoopi tried again to pull the conversation back from the edge. "Okay, let's all take a step back." "No." Joy cut in, her voice slicing through the room. "I'm not finished, Jack. You've had a free pass for far too long. Your reputation for being difficult, for treating women poorly, for your arrogance. It's all well documented. Nicholson's eyes flashed. Documented where? He fired back. In tabloids, show me one credible source, one verified incident, one actual person who's come forward with a legitimate complaint. I don't need to prove anything to you, Joy snapped. The whispers speak for themselves. Whispers. Nicholson's voice rose. So now I'm being judged based on whispers. Whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? Whatever happened to journalistic standards? At this point, the other hosts looked genuinely alarmed. This was no longer a heated debate. It had crossed into something deeply personal. Don't lecture me about standards. Joy shot back coldly, especially coming from someone who built a career playing psychopaths and bringing that same energy into real life. And that was the moment everything changed. Nicholson's composure stretched thin until now finally shattered. He stood up abruptly, his chair screeching loudly across the floor. The sound echoed through the stunned studio as gasps rippled through the audience. The charming Hollywood icon vanished in an instant, replaced by raw, unfiltered fury. You want to see a psychopath, Joy? He roared, his legendary voice booming with terrifying intensity. You just crossed a line you can't uncross. How dare you assassinate my character on national television based on absolutely nothing? Joy, visibly shaken but defiant, pointed back at him. Sit down, Jack. You're proving my point right now. My point. Nicholson laughed again. Bitter, dangerous. Your point is character assassination disguised as journalism. You're a fraud, Joy. And everyone in this building knows it except you. The studio erupted into shocked murmurs. Security along the edges of the set stiffened, unsure whether to step in. Off camera, producers waved frantically. Sarah and Alyssa sat frozen, eyes wide. I'm a fraud. Joy's voice cracked, but she pushed forward. At least I'm not a washed-up actor clinging to past glory while terrorizing everyone around me. Nicholson slammed his hand onto the table. Coffee mugs jumped, rattling loudly. Washed up, he thundered. I've forgotten more about acting than you'll ever know about anything. And terrorizing people. The only one doing that here is you. Ambushing a guest with unproven garbage. That's not unproven, Joy shot back, her voice rising. Your temper, your treatment of women, your impossible demands on set. Ask anyone or ask the tabloids you worship, Nicholson snapped, leaning forward menacingly. You know what your real problem is, Joy. You've spent so long dissecting other people's lives that you've forgotten what integrity looks like. The words hit hard. Joy's face drained of color, then flushed deep red. How dare you question my integrity? I've been in this business longer than you think. I earned my place at this table. Earned it, Nicholson sneered. By ambushing guests, by spreading gossip, by turning a professional interview into a public trial. If that's how you earned your seat, then it's not worth having. Whoopi finally raised her voice. Enough, both of you. We need to stop this right now. But Joy was beyond restraint. The polished honneur persona was gone. Don't tell me to calm down, she snapped. This man has gotten away with his behavior for decades, and someone has to call him out. My behavior, Nicholson shouted, his voice reaching a thunderous peak that seemed to shake the entire studio. And in that moment, everyone watching in the audience and at home knew this confrontation was about to reach a point of no return. What behavior, Joy? Nicholson shot back. Show me one witness, one police report, one lawsuit, one single piece of real evidence. You can't because it doesn't exist. The studio felt frozen in time. I don't need evidence, Joy screamed. I have sources. I have stories. Decades of whispers and rumors that all point to the same conclusion. Whispers and rumors. Nicholson threw his hands up in disbelief. That's your standard of proof? In what universe is that acceptable journalism? You're not a reporter, Joy. You're a gossip dealer with a microphone, and that makes you dangerous. You could hear a pin drop. The audience sat motionless, fully aware they were witnessing a moment that would dominate headlines by nightfall. The cameras kept rolling. Operators knowing this footage would live far beyond this broadcast. I'm dangerous. Joy's voice climbed to a piercing pitch. You're the one standing there yelling, intimidating everyone. You're proving everything I've said about you. No, Nicholson fired back. I'm proving I'm human. I'm proving that when someone publicly attacks my name and my life using lies and rumors, I defend myself. That's not psychotic. That's human. Human? Joy laughed bitterly. There's nothing normal about this reaction. A normal person would calmly address the concerns. Concerns? Nicholson snapped. These aren't concerns. They're accusations, and they're coming from someone who decided I was guilty before I ever sat down. The tension was unbearable. Sarah Haynes finally broke the silence. Maybe we should take a commercial. No. Joyce snapped without looking away from Nicholson. We're finishing this. Your reaction tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. That's when Nicholson leaned forward slowly until he was inches from her. You want to know who I really am, he said quietly. I'm someone who spent his life perfecting his craft. Someone who treated colleagues with respect until given a reason not to. And someone who doesn't appreciate being ambushed by a two-bit talk show host with delusions of grandeur. Two-bit? Joy practically shrieked. I've been on television longer than most people have been alive. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, A-list celebrities, and apparently learned nothing about professionalism. Nicholson cut in. A real journalist comes prepared, specific incidents, specific questions, and gives the guest a fair chance to respond instead of launching an ambush. I gave you chances, Joy protested. You could have addressed this honestly instead of getting defensive. Defensive? Nicholson laughed sharply. When someone accuses you of decades of misconduct on national television without a single fact, outrage is the appropriate response. What you're seeing is someone who's tired of being judged by people who don't know him. Behind the scenes, producers scrambled. Fingers hovered over the commercial break button. Security stood ready. The other hosts looked like they wished they could vanish. But Joy wasn't done. Her eyes burned as she prepared what she clearly believed would be the final blow. You know what, Jack? She said coldly. The truth is, you're a relic from a different era. An era where men like you could do whatever they wanted because of their status. Those days are over. The room stopped breathing. Nicholson's face drained of color, then flushed deep red. For a long, dangerous moment, no one spoke. The audience, the hosts, the crew, all waiting to see how a Hollywood legend would respond to the most personal attack yet. A relic. Nicholson's voice dropped to a chilling calm, far more unsettling than his shouting had been. You want to talk about relics, Joy, he said quietly. Let's talk about washed-up talk show hosts who mistake outrage for investigation. Let's talk about people who tear others down because they've never built anything themselves. The room felt ice cold. At least I'm honest about who I am. Joy fired back, her voice trembling with fury. At least I'm not pretending to be America's sweetheart while hiding a trail of problematic behavior. America's sweetheart? Nicholson let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Lady, I've never pretended to be anything. I'm an actor who dedicated his life to his craft. I don't hide behind fake personas, and I don't take cheap shots at people's reputations. At this point, the tension was unbearable. Whoopi made one last desperate attempt to shut it down. This has gone far enough. We need to know, Whoopi. Nicholson interrupted, never taking his eyes off Joy. She wants to play this game. Let's finish it. The studio went dead silent. You want to talk about what's problematic? He continued. Problematic is using your platform to spread unverified gossip. Problematic is destroying someone's name without evidence. What's problematic is what you've done here today. Joy stood up, matching his stance, refusing to be intimidated. What's problematic? She shot back. Is 50 years of Hollywood protecting men like you while silencing the people who tried to speak out? People. Nicholson's voice rose again. Show me the people, names, dates, incidents. Put up or shut up, because I'm done with insinuations and accusations that have no substance. I don't owe you anything. Joy screamed. The burden of proof isn't on me. It's on you to prove you're not who everyone says you are. And that's when the studio exploded. Gasps rippled through the audience. Some viewers covered their mouths in disbelief. The other hosts looked horrified. Crew members stood frozen, unsure whether to step in or keep recording what was clearly becoming television history. Everyone says, Nicholson thundered. Who is everyone, Joy? Your gossip sources, your tabloid contacts. Because I can give you names, directors I've worked with, actors I've supported, crew members I've mentored, people who actually know me. They're protecting you because of your power, Joy snapped. Or maybe, Nicholson replied slowly, disgust dripping from every word. They're telling the truth and you're wrong. Maybe you've been so obsessed with gotcha journalism that you've forgotten how to tell fact from fiction. Joy's face twisted with rage. Don't lecture me about facts when your entire career was built on intimidation and manipulation. My career, Nicholson said deliberately, was built on talent, discipline, and professionalism. 3 things you've clearly demonstrated you know nothing about today. The insult landed hard. Joy's remaining composure shattered. How dare you question my professionalism? I've been doing this job since before you were relevant. Before I was relevant. Nicholson laughed harshly. I've been relevant longer than you've been alive, and I'll still be remembered long after people forget you ever existed. That's enough, Whoopi finally shouted, slamming her hand on the table. This stops right now. But it was too late. The damage was done. The line had been crossed, and neither side was willing to retreat. You want to know what's enough? Joy screamed. What's enough is decades of men like him thinking they can intimidate and silence anyone who questions them. Intimidate and silence. Nicholson shot back in disbelief. You came out swinging the moment I sat down. You turned a professional interview into a public attack. And now you want to play the victim. I'm not playing anything. And right there, with voices raised and reputations hanging in the balance, it became painfully clear. This wasn't just an argument anymore. It was a moment that would follow everyone involved for the rest of their careers. I'm exposing the truth. Joy shot back. The truth about who you really are beneath all that Hollywood polish. The truth? Nicholson leaned forward one last time, his voice razor-sharp. The truth is, you're a bitter, washed-up hack, so desperate for relevance that you'll torch anyone's reputation just to stay in the spotlight. The truth is, you embarrassed yourself, your co-hosts, your network, and your entire profession today. Joy's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since the clash began, she had no response. The silence was deafening. Nicholson calmly straightened his jacket and turned directly to the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, he said evenly, this is what passes for journalism now. Character assassination built on rumor and gossip, delivered by someone more interested in outrage than truth. Then he turned back to Joy, his voice controlled but dripping with contempt. You should be ashamed of yourself. You had the chance to conduct a professional interview with someone who's spent a lifetime entertaining audiences. Instead, you chose a witch hunt. That says everything about who you are and nothing about who I am. With that, Nicholson unclipped his microphone, set it neatly on the table, and walked off the set without another word. The studio froze. His footsteps echoed as he disappeared backstage. Joy sank back into her chair, pale and visibly shaken, her hands trembling. The other hosts exchanged stunned glances, unsure what to say or if anything could be said. The audience remained motionless, struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Finally, Whoopi broke the silence. We'll be right back after this commercial break. As the cameras cut away, the weight of the moment settled in. What was meant to be a takedown of a Hollywood legend had backfired spectacularly. Instead of exposing Jack Nicholson, the confrontation exposed something else entirely. The danger of ambush journalism, the cost of accusations without evidence, and how quickly professionalism can collapse when personal agendas take over. The clash would be talked about for years, but not in the way Joy had intended. She wouldn't be remembered as the journalist who held Jack Nicholson accountable. She'd be remembered as the host who lost control on live television, shattering her credibility in front of millions. The Hollywood icon walked away, silent, composed, victorious. And that's the unbelievable story of the day Jack Nicholson erupted on The View. Now it's your turn to decide. Was Joy Behar out of line, or was she justified impressing Nicholson the way she did? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this debate is far from over.